when you're given objects that looks like this, which is known as a coin, or you're given a die, or maybe dice, or you're given a wheel that you have to spin, and you notice a couple of interesting results that can be gotten from these scenarios, either in various areas of studies in mathematics, and specifically this field of study that addresses what are the possible outcomes versus that of what specific outcome are addressed based on these types of question is known as probability. Therefore, the definition of probability is based on a formula which looks at the following, where probability is equal to the number of favorable events divided by the total possible outcomes. Now we're going to apply these to two examples from what we showed you here, which is going to be looking at a coin and a die. And in here, for a coin, we have only two possible outcomes from a coin, which are as follows. One is known as the head, and the second is known as the tails. And therefore, once we have these two possible outcomes, which are the total, we are going to focus now on what is the probability of getting a specific outcome, which in this case is our favorable outcome to be a head, and we are going to address this in short form, which is known as the probability of getting a head is known as the number of favorable heads that we have on a coin divided by the total possible outcomes, which are heads and tails. Therefore, we have our number of heads to be 1 out of 2. Therefore, this is how you're addressing the probability of a favorable outcome here versus the total based on the total outcomes that are possible. On the other hand, looking at a die, we are going to realize that a die has 6 faces, and a 6 faces die has 6 numbers, and those numbers include the following, where we have 1 dot, 2 dots, 3 dots, 4 dots, 5 dots, and finally we have 6 dots. Therefore, the total possible outcomes are what? We have 6 faces, and when you're asked to find the probability of tossing a 1, it means that we have only one face that has a 1 dot. Therefore, the number of 1 dot face divided by the total number of faces implies that we're going to have a number of 1 dot face to be only one face divided by the total number of faces, which is 6. Therefore, the probability of getting a 1 dot face is going to be 1 out of 6, and this is focusing on a die, and that is how probability works for a one event scenario, where we are just looking at a coin and a die. And there are some other cases where you might be asked to address when you have one or the other that is going to be revealing based on a specific type of scenario. Another scenario is where you're asked to spin a wheel, and what is the probability that this arrow lands on any of these spaces that we have right here. For example, what is the probability of getting a B? And in this case, we know that assuming that all these spaces are symmetrical to each other, then we will notice that yes, they're equally divided into 3 parts. Therefore, we have our total outcomes possible to be blue, or we say B, R, and yellow, and we are going to determine that total possible outcomes to be 3. But at the top, which is specifically looking at the number of blue, or B, we have the total number of B's to be just 1, and therefore we have our answer to be 1/3. Now, another question might be, what is the probability of getting a Y or a blue? And this here implies the following. We are considering the fact that Y is a favorable outcome alongside that of blue. So either getting Y or blue means that we are accounting for all this space right here, which implies that our Y plus our blue is going to be divided by the total possible outcomes. Therefore, we have our Y to be just 1 plus our 1 for B divided by our total possible outcomes, which is over 3. Therefore, we have our value to be 2/3. This means here that when you're spinning the wheel, you can only land on either Y or blue, not both of them at the same time at one spin. So that is one thing to keep in mind when it comes to this type of scenario. Other questions here might be not getting a red, and that is another possible way by which you can be asked. And in here, this is exactly the same result here as getting a yellow or blue, because not getting a red means that our red, which is in this case here for probability of getting a red, is 1/3, but then you're taking this away from the whole, which is 3/3, and that means we get 2/3 that is not red. So that is something to keep in mind. Therefore, you are able to understand how probability works either in terms of the or case scenario or not scenario when you're applying it to a wheel type of questions, and also how it is applicable to one event type of questions, which focuses on a coin spin, or you can say throwing, or a tossing of a die. And these are all one event style of questions that you're going to come across at different levels of math. But keep in mind that on our next video, we're going to be looking at 2 events and what are the 2 ways by which you can address when 2 events are happening at the same time. I hope you found this really informative. Hit a comment down below. Let me hear your thoughts about probability. That way we can talk to you soon. Stay smart as always and believe in yourselves.